Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Homework 1-2 video. We're going to talk about Intro to Dividing. So if you scroll down or go to your paper to the second page of your homework, it's going to say after the review material, Intro to Dividing. So let's talk about it. You guys know how to divide from back in the day. Here's some vocabulary associated with dividing. I'm going to go to the bottom here and talk about the numbers 24 divided by 4. The number that you're dividing into is called the dividend. So the 24 in this case is the dividend. A number or a term that is being divided into. If you're looking at a fraction, that's like your numerator of your fraction, okay? So that's the dividend. Now, what am I dividing by? That's called the divisor. So in this case, it's 24 divided by 4, so 4 is the divisor. So the number or term you are dividing by is called the divisor. And that's the bottom of the fraction, which is the denominator of the fraction. So you see the dividend divisor, it's actually alphabetically in order from top to bottom. Let's just say alpha, alphabetically, if you know how to alphabetize. Dividend comes before divisor, so that's how you can remember it. Dividend's on the top of the fraction, divisor's on the bottom. And then what we divide and the answer we get is called the quotient. So 24 divided by 4 equals 6, right? So that's the answer, the quotient. The answer to a division problem is called a quotient. The answer we obtain when dividing. So these are all vocabulary we're going to be throwing around this unit. So you got to know dividend, divisor, quotient. Specifically, divisor and quotient are more common and popular than the dividend. Now, we're also going to talk about if something is a factor. So 24 divided by 4, it's nice. The answer is a nice number, 6. 6 goes in nicely into 24, and 4 goes into 24. Both 4 and 6 are called factors of 24. So 24 can be broken up into 4 times 6, right? So both of these are called factors of 24. So something that divides nicely into a polynomial or a number, I'm going to say perfectly, nicely. I know somebody wrote evenly. I'm not a fan of evenly because if the answer is not an even number, it implies that the answer would be even. Basically, just as long as there's no remainder, that is a factor. No remainder means that what you divided is a factor. So what is a remainder then? Well, a remainder would be if there's something left over. Okay, so think about back in the day when you guys learned division. Let's say I were doing 24 divided by 5. Okay, so the dividend is 24. The divisor is 5, right? So think about it. It doesn't go in nicely. If you do 24 into 5, 5 into 24, you're going to do 4 times, and then you do 5 times 4 is 20, right? And then when you subtract, oh, you get something left over, remainder. Remember you guys used to put a big R there? That's called the remainder. So the number or the term left over when dividing is called the remainder. So in this case, that means that 5 is not a factor of 24 because it doesn't go in nicely. Okay, so those are things that we're going to talk about this year. Again, another way to look at it is if you have this is dividend, is what you are dividing into. Divisor is what you're dividing by. And quotient is the answer that you're going to obtain. All right, so one more thing we should talk about is how do we divide if you have terms, right? So here we have 4x cubed divided by 2x. So we have to think about we can divide our coefficients, 4 divided by 2. And that's a nice number too, right? And then separately, we could divide our x's. These are called our monomials. So we have x cubed and we have x, right? So if you remember, when you divide, you subtract exponents. But you could also write out the x's if you prefer. And you see that one of them cancels out and there's 2 left over. So if you remember to subtract, that would be 3 minus 1, which is x squared. But that's really what happens here. X cubed is 3x's, x times x times x, and x to the first is 1x, so one set cancels out, and then there's 2 left over, x squared. So our final answer to this is 2x squared. 2x squared. Put it together. That's called the quotient. The answer to the division problem. All right, that's it.